Live. This is the market update post State of the Union. I am your host, Bill Noble. Bitcoin, hey, it bounced, not sideways or down only. Should we be taking that seriously? Can you expect a relief rally, or is 3% a relief rally? We'll talk about it. AI fear spreads through equities massively, and I mean massively. Have they reached peak fear over there? By the way, if you're wondering what they're afraid of, we'll talk about that. It's something that should help crypto, okay, but it isn't as of now. And you're probably wondering, in crypto, where's the bid? Where's the bid? Now, in the YouTube member area, we have discussed this. Toby kind of laid all this out about, who's really in control of the market. We did have a roadmap that said if 65K holds, something good could happen. That was published in Patreon. So I'm not sure how to treat this little venture to 62K this morning. Feels like a trading bear trap. It feels like we go back and forth. But, YouTube member podcast this morning actually did go over some altcoins, that are going to make sense when all of this is said and done. Okay, so let's be positive for a moment. We know the privacy narrative, and our guys from Antivirus, who gave me this great t-shirt that defeats facial recognition, kind of helped put privacy on the map in a small way, and they've even automated their entire project. So John McAfee now makes the AI version of John McAfee actually makes all the decisions for one aspects of this project. It's amazing. Privacy will be a huge theme. Zcash went down, but it's not a disaster. Okay, next, the positive angle for crypto is the scarcity factor of Bitcoin. Now let's talk about that. CNBC and what I would basically call your average, guy in a diner explanation for Bitcoin is that Bitcoin is digital gold, right? It's like an alternative form of the US dollar, except it's digital. And I've always thought to myself that that's a dumbed down, stupid explanation, because gold is gold and they can tokenize gold. So let's just put that to bed, because obviously gold went to 5,000 and Bitcoin went in the other direction. So that's not the narrative. So what is the narrative? What is it? Bitcoin is scarce computer code. So let me tell you what AI is going to do. AI is going to make code and knowledge or intelligence free. Free, right? Now, it's already happened in software stocks, right? All the software stocks got annihilated because they just woke up one day and said, wait a minute, code's free. Elon Musk today put out a tweet that said, we are in the AI singularity, meaning they've got the software for Skynet ready. If they had the electricity, they'd be good to go to run the data centers. That's all they need. Okay, so the only thing that's scarce, maybe in the whole world, at least digitally, is Bitcoin. Because AI cannot manufacture any more Bitcoin per a guy I used to work with. Right? It's as simple as that. You cannot manufacture any more Bitcoin. You can mine gold, get oil, do all these things. It's 21 million Bitcoin, and the Zcash supply is even less. But because we're in bear market moron mode, Bitcoin went down with the software stocks. And to increase our pain, everyone is buying the Magnificent Seven stocks, the, what I call the AI spenders, Meta, Amazon, all these big companies, even though one of them admitted today that their estimates of what they can spend on this whole AI thing is overblown and has to be a little bit restated. So stonks are crazy, right? Meaning we'll go over that. But the only thing that makes sense in an AI dominated world where all stocks have to be revalued, right? Because nobody knows what can come out of the clear blue sky. The only thing that makes sense is Bitcoin. Now, the other angle, which we have talked about in the YouTube member area, is what are machines going to use? Well, they're going to use blockchain, right? You can't verify whether something is made by a human or a machine without putting it on chain, right? Once this machine thing proliferates and you've got AI agents literally everywhere, not to mention stable coins or any of these fast layer ones, right? Which again, we have talked about, right? In other words, in stocks, and again, we'll go over it. Stocks, everyone is like, oh my God, what's the next AI victim? What's the next thing that's going to basically get nuked? Okay, we need to transition from that to, oh my God, what is so dirt cheap? What is the thing we need to invest in when this future shows up? Well, of course, that would be in crypto. But we're not doing that right now for whatever reason. Now, the reason I guess that we're not doing it is there's not enough liquidity in the system, right? Rates are way too high. Powell's not going to change rates. Food inflation still exists. So we're not getting any help on that. Any money that they're printing is going to regional banks, which is mind-boggling because, you know, as consumers walk away from credit cards or as AI starts disrupting the employment markets, these regional banks are, I mean, there's going to be a little depository box with everybody turning in the keys to cars, houses. It's unbelievable. But those stocks are at all-time highs. Not all-time highs. They've made new 52-week highs, and everybody over in stonks is just in love with their positions. And that is part of the problem in crypto. It's like we cannot get people off the Magnificent Seven or stonks, and they're watching Bitcoin just kind of bleed out with no bid, with everybody in crypto going, it's going to be a long bear market. It's a 4-year cycle. It's over. And of course, since there's no bounce or no bid, how do you counterweight this? Now, we'll go over some charts. But the sentiment in crypto, the bullish sentiment is zero because there's no bid for the moment. Now, what changes this? What changes crypto's position in the world? All right. So there's a lunar eclipse. There's a lunar eclipse like March 3rd. Now, eclipses can magnify trends and they can reverse trends. So hopefully we're not magnifying the down move. However, as we discussed in the YouTube member area this morning, crypto's better days may be a little bit past March. Okay. So, you know, we're going to keep our fingers crossed, but as they say in the military, hope is not a tactic. And the people who believe this is a bear market have got the high ground in just about every technical analysis indicator that you could possibly think of, which, you know, includes the stuff that I look at, like DeMark work, right? So just as an example, right, going right to a chart. So these moving averages are generated by a quantitative system. It's not like the 50-day moving average. It's done with math. So basically, as you can see, you know, failed rally here, down, failed rally here, down, right? Mini failed rally here, and then just crash. And now we're playing the same game at the same moving average, right? Going sideways at 70. Now it's going sideways at 65. The moving average is at 67. We cannot get a break. Cannot get a break. Now, if you're like, Bill, okay, thank you for all that. I'm aware of that. Tell me something positive. There is a 13 bottom in Solana. For our friends in TikTok, let me try to get this in the center of the screen. There is a 13 bottom in Solana. Now, what's required to make a 13 bottom is that you need follow through. So, Solana needs to break its version of that moving average. Please. Zcash at 200 something feels super juicy. All these privacy coins, that's what could turn crypto around. Now, what problem does crypto still have? Like, what is the reason to wonder whether or not this thing can really go up? Honestly, it's what's going on in stonks. And we have to talk about this, because if that ever came to fruition on a geopolitical event, on an eclipse, or whatever, then crypto would be caught in that. So here's the dummy artificial intelligence trade that is currently happening in stonks. Anthropic came out with a new version of its chatbot Claude that was apparently so powerful that in stocks, they decided to not only dump software stocks brutally, but they also decided to go with an approach of sell now, ask questions later on consulting companies, insurance companies, anything that involves human capital. They just destroyed it because, all intelligence will be free, right? So anything produced by humans will be produced by machines for free. So they just basically took all of these stocks and they either marked them down dramatically or they marked them down enough to scare the options market for these individual stocks to the point where buying insurance against a down move became prohibitively expensive. Now, naturally, investment banks had to then turn around and make trading baskets of companies that will not be affected by AI, which is ridiculous. But, that's what investment banks do. Let's buy this and sell that, and don't worry, everything's going to be fine. When in reality, the problem in stocks as it results from AI is that nobody knows what any company is worth, because AI can change a company's entire business model just like that. Just like that. And the worst thing for markets is uncertainty. Uncertainty is worse than bearish news. The stock market has been ignoring any type of bearish news. No employment growth, problems with defaults it doesn't care, right? Because it's AI, it's going to increase productivity, the data center build out, blah, 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 blah. So equities are up only until, as one guy said, they invented a science fiction story where, AI starts to eat the world. Okay. So fear spikes in equities massively. Naturally, investment banks note that fear is so extreme, it could be over. Nasdaq was up 1% today. With crypto, Bitcoin at 62. I mean, just the pain of that. Just to watch them buy all this stuff that is totally insane. But there is real fear over there. Because, if you are in the middle of a singularity and, something gets announced, combined with kind of a Rocky Balboa moment where he throws a punch and cuts Ivan Drago, Ivan Drago in this case would be the lizards that are building this AI machine, right? Actually admit that they can't spend what they thought they were going to spend. It's called the CapEx reality. So OpenAI goes, I don't think we can do 1.4 trillion. We can do 600 billion over a period of years. They just admitted that they can't do this. They've borrowed so much money, they've lost their mind in the Magnificent Seven stocks. So if you were an investor and you're like, okay, what should I do? Well, I can be in the stock market. I can be in these, hyper spenders. I can be in some stock that's valuation or business model could change overnight, or I could be in the only thing that's scarce. Or I could be in some other form of crypto like stable coins, XRP ledger volume is up. Okay. But naturally, no one wants to do that. No one wants to do it. Not in crypto. Now, that said, if there was ever a rude awakening moment in stonks where you got like a 10% correction in stocks, honesty, where was that put Bitcoin? Like if there was ever really or a geopolitical event for that matter, if you had $80 or $90 oil, we have more stuff. I'll just say the word. We have more stuff in the Middle East right now than we did in 2003 when we actually launched an operation. We have more stuff there now. No mention in the State of the Onion, none about this. So I'm looking at, the negative things that can affect crypto. It's like bears have the high ground. They have the high ground. I mean, in equities, it's so bad. Like IBM got destroyed 10% the other night because apparently Claude is better at revising its software COBOL than IBM is. Creating, again, tail risk, which means, you can have an event over there. You've already had an event, right? You've had an event in the sense that, like I said, software got blown out and they had the unmitigated indignity to include Bitcoin in that, which is just such a disgrace. I've showed this before. I'll show it again. Like, this is the future of stonks. It is. Because they're going to have to like revalue everything. This is like a software ETF. Okay. And, we could get caught in that nonsense. We could. All right. So if you switch over to say, what does the AI trade do for Bitcoin? Like, or what does it do for crypto? Well, first of all, and again, this is a big Toby Ward thing in the YouTube member area, in crypto specifically, what is the common man gonna do when this unemployment reckoning happens? Like, what are they gonna do? Right? Well, you'll probably get paid to sit around and watch Netflix or use a golf club that a robot built, so machines can get what they desperately need, which is data, particularly data about what humans like. Not entirely promising, but owning Bitcoin, it seems to make sense, particularly since if there is ever an employment problem, right? The Fed has to turn on the printer like massively. Like the orange man says, inflation is dead tonight. Okay, well, I happen to have some reliable intel that, food is still going up at a 10% rate. So food inflation of certain items is still at 10%, like maybe not vegetables, but okay. But when they turn on the printer, and Arthur Hayes discussed this, you have a liquidity shock that Bitcoin is the primary beneficiary of. And of course, again, as we discussed, if everybody ever came out of any of these big tech stocks, portfolio managers would be forced to look at Bitcoin. Now, as somebody just said here, right, one of our loyal readers, and we appreciate you all, right? If they take out 50 something, it's 40 or 30. You can draw these things, right? Like if you go back to Bitcoin TA, right? So, DeMark work is always very interesting. Support can come and go. So when this thing was like over here, let's see, that's Solana. Yeah. So on the first leg down, there was a whole bunch of support at 58. So it stopped at 60. 58 was a big fib number. It still is. But where's where's the little DeMark line? There is no DeMark line. There's nobody home. I'm just saying. Now, the good news is Bitcoin is very close to that 13 bottom that, registered on the Solana chart. I don't know. I mean, a lot of times that requires one more big down move. But, this down move is a little, as they would say, it's getting a little old. It's getting a little long in the tooth, right? But, we also have to get real about people's P&L and people's willingness to take risk. I mean, the Orange Men says everyone's portfolio is gaining. Everybody is up, way up. Yeah, bro, not us. Not the people you promised, the new golden age to. Michael Saylor says Bitcoin's on sale. Yeah, it is, man, but that guy's $9 billion underwater. Tom Lee, with his ETH treasury company, is $9 billion underwater. We do have to ask ourselves what happens if these guys sell. All right. Now, if you're like me, you're sick of these arguments. You're just sick of it. Because, again, the only thing that makes any sense is crypto. And if there is no equity market debacle, which, Morgan Stanley thinks there won't be, we may have hit peak fear. Okay, now I don't agree with that because I think AI can just change anything at the drop of a hat. But if we have reached peak fear in stonks, there doesn't appear to be a big reason to sell crypto. But honestly. All right, let's go to some crypto TA and just look at it, talk about it. All right, so lately I've gotten into these like regression bands just to try to come up with some intelligent support points. So this is Bitcoin on the daily chart. And as you can see, okay, Bitcoin was close to its bottom. It didn't quite get there. And so was Zcash. Zcash didn't quite get there. It's 221. So, I mean, there's reason to think, I have not looked at Monero, and Monero is sitting on its regression channel. So, I mean, Monero exploded way through it, and now it's back down here at like 314, exactly where Monero was like in August of last year. Holy cow. Like, how are we not looking at this? Okay, well, I'll be fair and balanced. I'll tell you why. And this is probably why, Vitalik is selling ETH, because ETH is nowhere near its bottom. It's like at 1,500 or some scary number. It actually goes lower every day. I don't even want to fucking talk about it. But it's these altcoins that have, the danger of the trap door opening and having everything fall out. But again, I would so much rather talk about the fact that, I mean, this morning in Bitcoin, it literally, it felt like it was going to zero this morning. It did. Like when it was at 62K, you were like, this thing's going to make a new low And it is going to, I mean, like this DeMark count on a 4-hour chart. I mean, this just looked like it was just going to keep going. Just going to keep right on, keeping on, going on. Now, then all of a sudden it reversed, which is, that into itself is interesting. Okay. And here's stonks. The thing that's so funny is, you have all this rot underneath the index. You can't look at these indexes like QQQ or S&P because they're dominated by the Magnificent Seven. And no one sold those stocks. They sold everything else. But is this a problem? Does it look like a problem here? They're trying to break through the moving average. They're trying to get it going on the upside. So painful to watch. So painful. Like crypto is the only trade, but they're still doing that. And, I understand because it's going up and crypto only goes down. And, there's all this talk about bear markets and winter. And how can you argue? Well, you can argue. You can argue because of the scarcity element of Bitcoin. You can argue that Bitcoin is your only way out. That's a Toby Ward thing. But, we were ahead of the thought leaders on that. And, there's this idea that there's something going on in equities because you have so much rot underneath the surface. It's called the Hindenburg Omen. The Hindenburg was a blimp that was too big to fail. And then something caught on fire and it just went up in flames. I will let you look that up. But the Hindenburg Omen is something that it's a technical analysis calculation, right? And normally when you get this Hindenburg Omen or rot underneath the surface, plus or minus 3 weeks, you have a problem, which is why when it comes to the month of March, I'm like, me, right? Because some kind of reckoning can happen. But what would happen if you got the reckoning? Like, for example, I just gave Patreon, like if there's a spike low, I gave them my levels. If, this crazy banana pants thing I did for the Hindenburg Omen, where like if that happens in equities, what happens to crypto? That's Bitcoin at 40K. Okay. I think from a portfolio point of view, you have to ask yourself, can I handle a wick down? Can I handle a new low? If you can't, make some kind of adjustment. Now, you can also say, if I only got to hold on for a certain number of days, which we talked about again in the YouTube member area, for this thing for people to wake up and turn around. I went through the whole about the stupidity of the bearish case and the wisdom of the bullish case, because, they can only stay stupid so long. I know markets can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. That's a saying. But this is actively being traded. It's happening in equities. That's the bearish part. The bullish part has not yet happened in crypto. And I see it on TikTok, not in a major way, but I put a thing on TikTok that says, hey, Bitcoin's okay. 200 views. I put something on there that goes, Bitcoin winter, instantly 5 times as many views. Not huge, 5 times as many views, right? People want to know about bear markets and winter. I mean, like when you looked at the trending YouTube thumbnails, like the bearish sentiment in crypto, major Bitcoin setback, Bitcoin death spiral. This is from a guy who thinks it's going to $1 million long-term, literally. Toby's always sending me these guys who are like, yeah, Bitcoin massively higher long-term. Yeah. Bitcoin death spiral, collapse imminent. Saylor, why it's really crashing. Your Bitcoin isn't real, right? Next leg down. Disgusting banks hate crypto. The biggest crypto bombshell of 2026. Yeah, by the way, there is going to be a report. Okay. And again, it's like, this scares me. Zach XBT is coming out with some kind of report about, insider trading in crypto, right? It's not illegal like it is in registered securities, but they're gonna have a negative crypto PR event where they're gonna find out that people have advanced knowledge of all kinds of stuff and they can move the market around. And this is really nothing new in markets, right? That big players have some kind of advantage and are trading before the little guy. But, if this Zach XBT guy has found something that's like, dramatic, it's a negative event. It's a negative event. However, again, I don't necessarily want to totally focus on what's negative, because what's positive in crypto, right, goes way beyond that. Like, we was on a stream today and we're kind of making fun of like the crypto AI trade. The first time we tried to do this, and, fart coin and a whole bunch of other silly stuff. But like, have you looked at what's happened to things like Tau and Render, right? And all this decentralized AI. And it was one thing I have said is that, do you seriously want to leave the future of crypto to these lizards? Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like, how can anyone actually want that? I don't know. I just don't know. But I mean, when you look at what's going on with, say, Tau, and just like just look at the number, like, Solana was trading at a 70 handle this morning, 70. Solana was at 200. Where's Solana going? Back to FTX days at 20? Where's it going? Right? I mean, Tau is at 172. The high uptick was 300 in January, and the high, in October was 500. Right? I mean, this has disappeared. Like it shouldn't be there. I think it kind of should. I think it should. Along with any of these hardware sharing companies, Render, Akash, all this stuff. Absolutely, totally. It's like it's not even there. But frankly, it is. It is there. The question is, when does the fear lift? Like, is there any reason for the fear to lift? Now, this geopolitical event, we do have to talk about this. I don't want to, but you do, right? 22 fighter planes just landed in the Middle East. Some country just got 22 fifth generation fighters. People are being told to get out of, like people are saying to have their citizens get out of another country. Huge buildup over here. I don't think that's factored in. It's not factored into stonks at all. At all. So, again, we kind of have to deal with that component of it. Let's go and do some more TA. Or we can open it up for live TA if anyone's got serious questions. So here is the fear gauge in stocks, VIX. For all the talk, for all the fear, this is for S&P. It didn't get moving. And then there's MicroStrategy. And I look at this and I go, well, there's two ways to look at it. One, they've destroyed this thing. This is the 200-day moving average, not the exponential moving average, but the 200-day moving average. MicroStrategy's 200-day moving average is at 289. The stock is currently at 124. Now, I guess, if you're Peter Schiff, you think it's going to the bottom of the regression channel at 43. I personally can't go there. Now, believe it or not, I was working with Crypto Princess this morning. We kind of do a collab every Tuesday. A lot of people are talking about the 200-week exponential moving average. She's talking about the 200-week simple moving average, which ironically is at 58, which makes me feel really good that, even though I don't have it on DeMark, oh my God, there actually is a chart point below the fucking market. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I think people are just like literally making stuff up. It's like, well, it's going to 30 or it's going to 40 or whatever, because it's assumed to parallel other bear markets. So there is a point below the market at 58. Let me just label this, right? It's the 200-day, like simple moving average. Is it basically at 58? And she said that, if she started to DCA in Bitcoin, that's where she would start to DCA. And you know what? Her and her buddies like Army Piper and them got short at 126 and walked away. She dumped her portfolio at 97K. And I thought she was crazy. Guess what? The bears have the advantage. And even Toby has talked about like the trading types are in charge of the market, right? I mean, you can see it. They're selling the rally right now as we speak. 67K, looks like it's going to break out. Everything's amazing. Boom. They just come back in and start selling again. Because, traders have the advantage. And what we're looking for is we're looking for chart points underneath the market. And frankly, that's the best we can do. Now, oil. Okay, this is oil on a weekly chart. There's a midpoint line on this regression channel. Oil is now through that. I understand oil shorts in the stock market. The oil stock guys are getting destroyed, and silver is back. Silver hit its midpoint and has started going up again. Here's SLV, right? Silver hits a whole bunch of DeMark points. And now you see this little plus sign. That means a 13 top is coming. But frequently, in order to get it, you may have to get a huge kind of God candle higher. Doesn't have to be a new high, but, normally it doesn't happen until you get something big. Now, on precious metals. Everyone thinks that the profits from precious metals are going to make its way over to crypto. That's obviously not true, because they just continue to buy gold. They just continue to buy silver. They just continue to do it. So that's not going to stop. What is going to help crypto is an employment event, and it's already happening. Princess mentioned something. She's got a friend who's a developer with a real resume. They can't get jobs. It's over in software. Done. Like, everyone knows this is happening, but it doesn't get real until it happens to you or somebody you know, right? It doesn't get real until that point. And all we can do in crypto is sit around and hope that, we can get to the day where this all gets turned around. When people go, wait a minute, what should we buy, right? Again, in stonks, they're calling it Halo. Heavy assets, low obsolescence, right? So immediately they got to find something to buy over in stonks. Like, oh, don't worry, you can buy this instead. There is no moat. There is no moat. And I had to tweet. I X'd it out for whatever reason. Some guy said that, it's funny, AI will never be dumber than it is right now. Like, when they really launch that stuff, it'll be insane. And Elon replies to that saying, we are in the singularity. Elon is in interviews going twice a week over at Tesla Robot Land, or XAI. He's like completely blown away twice a week. And he's head of the whole robot program. twice a week. He's like, oh my God. Like this literally is happening. And we are doing nothing but selling. Like here's the tweet, the Eagle King, of course, the genius producer that he is. Our reaction, I mean, I don't know. It's to me, it just feels so stupid. And I know is no whining, but here's something to remember. AI is the slowest and most incorrect it will ever be right now. Today is the dumbest AI you'll use for the rest of your life. And Elon says we are entering the singularity. Right? You know, I can't tell whether Beeple is drawing AI as a monster or AI is just some big dumb thing. People, AI is not some big dumb thing. They have the software. They just don't have the hardware or the electricity. And by the way, while we're on the subject of Elon, here's a mind-blowing event. Everyone is selling software and buying semiconductor chip companies, which makes sense. Right. But Elon says you can have all the chips in the world. We have all the chips in the world. We can't plug them into anything because there isn't enough electricity. We can't use the chips, which is interesting, right? It's like, oh, gee, it's not that we don't need the chips. It's that we can't build the machines. We can't plug it in. What happens to the Magnificent Seven if like there's an electricity reality check? I mean, Elon said it. I'm not making it up. He said it. But of course, you know, that's not what we're trading today. Zapatis reminds you to hit the like button. Let's welcome what's here. Silver Short Hairs Stacker says, Bitcoin scarce, try real gold. You know, I'm so sick of Peter Schiff. I'm so sick of the guy being right. I mean, Michael Saylor has got to be just, I don't know. I mean, you know, maybe he sleeps at night. Toby sleeps fine at night. She has the same view as him. You know, this thing, you know, if I had hair, I'd pull it out. Seriously. Super Matt here from Great Britain in the middle of the night or the very early in the morning. Bull Runner first on the stream, of course. Right. Odd Dark, a member. Welcome to all our members. Cisco Wolf. Zapatis, the Jeski, welcome, 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 welcome. Right? Ariane, hello. Tenzin, hello, hello. Hobby Banter, can't see Bitcoin hitting 30K. Maybe we wick down to 52. Actually, I told Princess this today. You know what the dream is? The dream is for this down move to end the way a mini crash ended in 1997, which was stocks went down 5%, which back then was huge. I think it was like one of the first limit down moves since they put in limit down after 87. So on the 10-year anniversary of the 87 crash, they did something in 97 where equities went down 5%. And came back, and I want to say it finished up 3%. So you had this monster candle, and of course, that was the bottom of the internet age, pretty much, in my mind, right? That's where everybody was selling off whatever. I can't even remember what everyone was selling off. But, I mean, if you were going to buy, you know, anything connected to the next generation, the internet, Microsoft or whatever, Intel, that was the day. And I'm dreaming about this moment where, you know, something happens in stocks and we mindlessly follow, or, you know, crypto just has a dump on, you know, some report like the ZAC XBT thing or whatever crypto makes up to have this, like, you know, this trading community just continue to lean on this market. I'm wondering what happens if it would wick down to like some crazy number. 58, 52, 40, something nuts. And then have it come screaming back like a $25,000 or $50,000 candle. I know. Sounds nuts. I would love to see, instead of winter, to have it be the end of a correction and just, you know, end the crash in the most insane possible way, and then have everybody go, oh no, there really is buyers down below. You know, we can have our dreams, because, you know, that's really all you got. That's really all you got while these monkeys continue to sell every uptick. Okay. You know, Hobby Banter says 15 to 20K. In other words, there is a completely logical argument. This is like Chinese New Year, year of the horse. Last time you had year of the horse was 2014. Bitcoin lost 80% of its value. What are you going to do? You're going to argue with this? These guys are selling every uptick and they're making money. See, that's the problem. Not only is this thing in the hands of traders, traders take no heat at all. Like today was real heat for traders, right? 2.5%, 3% rally, at which point they just continue to sell. That's what we're dealing with, right? You know, silver short, look at the charts, awful. You know, whatever man says crypto is crap. Once, you know, now somebody else says once it breaks 80, it can go back to 100. Yeah. Yeah. You know, that is the positive news. In other words, we published a conditional roadmap, like 65 had a hold. You know, it sort of held on a closing basis. We had to pay a visit to 62 for whatever reason. Right now, if you want to look forward to something interesting, Bitcoin Vegas is coming up. So Bitcoin 2026 is coming up. Normally, that's in a bull market, and conferences lead to a crash. Although I do remember a consensus crash during the bear market. Okay. I'm hoping that whatever that is the bottom, or the bottom is already in by the time you get there. Right. Instead of the conference crash, it's the conference rally, because you know what? I just can't live with this. I cannot live with the lizards running the freaking world. Like, that's why I donned my antivirus shirt today. I mean, they have like a browser extension that stops them from spying on you. Oh my God. They got so much stuff I can't even read it all. But I mean, this is like, you know, okay, I know it's negative. I know your P&L's down. Maybe you need a pep talk. These lizards cannot run the world. And you know what? They're coming. They're not only coming with Skynet, they're going to come into crypto. Of course they're going to come into crypto, right? They get it, and we don't. Maybe we get it, but like, investors are not interested. They're too busy trying to figure out what's going to blow up in equities, which, by the way, is a stupid trade. I mean, yes, they're going to have, we discussed this morning, you're going to have what's called dispersion. That's a term for some stuff's going to go up a lot, some stuff's going to do nothing, and some stuff's going to go down a lot, right? And the more dispersion you have in stocks, the more annoying and the more difficult it is to invest. Hopefully, they get enough dispersion so that they get sick of being negative over there and decide to get positive over here. That is the key, because portfolio managers may not just go, well, you know, I think it would be nice if we moved over to crypto. With the price action we have right now, I don't see that happening. But you also have to consider, and this is a very powerful thing from Beeple, you know, Orange Man giving a speech to Congress, monkeys. You know what I'm saying? Like, just completely out of control. You know, like, for example, no tax on overtime. Like, if you make $20 an hour and you work overtime and get 30, the $30 an hour that you made in overtime is not tax-free. Only the part that's tax-free is the part that's over your regular wage. So the $10 extra you make is what's not taxable. Like you'd have to be a very high-end wage earner with overtime to have that even matter. So these guys, who are they helping? They're helping the donors. And I think that's another realization. Even though you may like this guy, I mean, I saw, U.S. Olympic hockey team beats the Canadians. Miracle on Ice Part 2. I remember Miracle on Ice Part 1. Okay. I think that was a bigger miracle, but still, I saw Melania pinning the CMH on a 100-year-old guy. God bless him. I don't know what he did to get the CMH. I know if you get the Congressional Medal of Honor, you did something so heroic, you probably should be dead, but you're not. So, if you have to wait 80 years to get the CMH from Melania, good for him. Right. So these things make me want to wave the flag as a patriotic guy. But, one of the things that you'll note about this picture from Beeple is up in the gallery, you have Skynet and robots. And these characters are coming to the point where you don't want to get forced out of the market. You don't. Like, I think the worst thing that can happen is quitting crypto. And I know your bags, people are wrecked. There's no way that you can't get away from this, even because Bitcoin is bleeding out. Quitting crypto is a mistake, because if there was ever an event that woke everybody up, I mean, it's just like this was the whole thing in Stonks was created by an upgrade of a chatbot. And Mike Novogratz made this huge point, right? Which I love. It's like, let's say you drive a Chevy Suburban, a big SUV, and you get the new version today, and you've been driving the Suburban your whole life, and you ask somebody, so what do you think of your Suburban now versus the one you were driving in the 90s or in the year 2000? They'd be like, oh my God, what a huge difference. Okay. So that's like 100% better. Okay. AI is getting hundreds of percent better daily, monthly. So if you start compounding what AI is going to do over time, according to Mike Novogratz, you could have like 8,000% improvement in 6 months. No one's trading 6 months from now. Everyone's just like selling the uptick, thinking it's a bear market and winter. Meanwhile, the thing that's going to change the world and create the dawn of crypto is improving 8,000% every 6 months. And we were all acting like it wasn't there. I think this IBM thing is what made everybody get real. You nuke a bunch of software stocks that nobody really even knows about, or they're not household names. But when you whack something like IBM, which people know what that is. The day somebody gets on CNBC and goes, I think we should look at Bitcoin. You know what I'm saying? Like that is the moment that we are all hanging on for. Conditional roadmap in Patreon Platinum. Latest TA report for all of Patreon. Everybody got that. And don't forget about Toby Ward dropping the knowledge, dropping some new altcoins, dropping a way to look at the market, dropping the long-term perspective. We did that today. So on behalf of the Eagle King, that is the market update for today. We will see you soon.